Hello, Matt Heaton here. We are addressing some questions that came up in the virtual guided session Facebook group. And both Marie and Irina had sort of a similar question about texture, really, about like the different, not so much like the specific chords you're playing, but how you're playing them, how to get maybe more variety, how to suit the situation, whether it's in session playing or like backing one person like a performative thing, which is it's a really interesting thing to think about, and I'm gonna just try and give you a few thoughts here. This is like a fairly massive topic to fit into one video, or at least one video that you actually want to sit and watch. But I'll do my best here. The first and foremost thing is you don't have to play if you're playing the guitar, you do not have to play all 6 strings all the time. In fact, you should really hardly ever play all 6 strings all the time. What do I mean by that? I mean, when I'm, if I'm strumming away, like surely I'm hitting all 6 strings. Yes, but there is a lot of muting that goes on. So if you've all heard the advice that is given fairly freely and should be followed, that when you're finding chord voicings, finding ways to play chords where you at least initially leave the third out is a handy thing, because this G chord where I'm playing, muting the 5th string, and then that is a very like open neutral sound. You can do a lot with that. I could play very like aggressively with it, I could play very pretty. I could do something arpeggiated. But whereas if I do the normal G chord where you have all the thirds, it takes up a lot of space. There's just a lot more sort of vibrating around in there, and it's harder for that not to kind of draw a lot of attention to itself. Same with I have the same issue with this D chord. Putting that third up there, it sounds like a melody note. It sounds like I'm going, I don't know. I don't know what that was, but so the thinner chords. Now, and so you can always look toward what notes do I not really need in this chord. You know what I mean? Like if we're playing an E minor, do I need to play that whole thing? Really? Maybe I could just play that, or that, or if I want some thirds, maybe something like that. Okay. So step 1, what can you get rid of? What do you not need? Step 2, what is the mood and what is the purpose of you being there? Really, like why are you playing this tune at this particular time, musically speaking? Are you there to add like low end? Are you there to add rhythmic support? Are you there to make a beautiful wash of something? Are you there to I don't know, what else, like why else could you be there? So if you're in a session, more often than not, you're there for rhythmic low end, right? I mean, that's why we do play with these thin picks and do all the thwacky kind of strums. So the palm muting is a big deal. Using the fleshy part of your hand down near the bridge of the guitar, on the saddle rather. So when I do it, I can sort of feel like I got the pegs here. You can't see them because it's black, but I can kind of feel my hand against the back part. When you're figuring this out, if you are too far away, it doesn't do anything. If you're too far this way, you can't hear any note. So you're going for, somewhere down there where you can, it's just kind of deadening it a bit, right? And if you're just doing downstrokes, great, your hand stays there and no problem. If you're strumming, you're not muting the upstroke. But the downstroke, kind of your pick and hand hit at the same time, so it mutes the downstroke. And if you're going fast, you kind of, it's a little sleight of hand where you don't, like you don't notice that I'm, that's actually not muted. Right? So in a session, the palm muting thing is very handy because then it prevents the guitar. It allows you to play, well, for my ear, it's a more rhythmic sound anyway, more percussive, and it doesn't, you don't turn into this jangle machine that's drowning everything out. I mean, guitarists don't think they're that loud, but it depends where you're sitting with where the sound comes out. So, if it's going real fast, you don't have to play every eighth note either. You can, I'm, if you're chugging along, playing fast reels, how about that? Just thinning it out a little bit, just kind of, going to an only downstroke approach. Gives your hand a little bit of a rest, gives your ear a little bit of a rest. Right? Still keeps a really big pulse going, a big rhythmic feel, but it's less expansive, I guess. It's a little more focused. So I'm a fan of that sort of a thing. If you're, jigs and reels obviously take up a lot of the time. If you run into other tune types that you're not as familiar with, I think if you're trying, I am not gonna sit here and tell you that I'm an expert in playing, Strathspeys or, polkas or whatever, like the other tune types that I haven't spent, that I'm, don't play as often. But I think that one of the ways to approach them is just, first and foremost, listen to it and try and figure out what is that rhythmic feel telling you. I mean, obviously, what is the actual, meter and stuff, sure, but more like what is the, what is the rhythmic intent going on? Like if I'm going to embarrass myself humming this tune, but that I don't know the name of it. It's a Strathspey that the folks play. The way I'm hearing that is like I'm hearing a lot of downstrokes, a lot of downbeats, with the occasional little and so that's kind of how I approach them. Right, very muty, but very thumpy. And so any tune type that you're less familiar with, if you just kind of examine it, what does the tune want you to play? Which now I'm veering to what does the tune want you to play if it is maybe slow and pretty, right? Not everything is thumpy and loud. And one thing that the tune might want you to play is something arpeggiated. An arpeggio is just not playing all the notes at the same time, right? And so if, technically you have three choices for how you can do this kind of thing. You can just use your pick. Right? Just kind of, or whatever you need to do for the pattern you're going for. You can use a pick and fingers, hybrid picking, so you keep holding the pick, but then you use these two. Or you can just go, straight up finger. They all have their advantages. I use them all. It just depends on the situation. But a really good, if you haven't done much of that, either with a pick or with your fingers, a really good exercise is you could even just start with open strings if you don't want to bother fingering a chord. But if you play, right, so the low E string and then the top three. And I'm actually alternating. I'm going down, up, down, up, down, up. Or and then practice getting the different bass notes. Just to build a little bit of control with that kind of a texture. Because it's handy for waltzes and songs and airs, and I mean, heck, slow. If you're doing like a reel that's going to be slow and moody, And here I'm combining I'm playing the downstroke with the muty thing, but then I'm using my fingers to do an arpeggiated thing on top. Right? So it's a very, very open-ended question, because everything will affect how it ends up sounding, like the instrument you're playing, the tuning you're using, the pick you're using, the room you're in, the people you're playing with. All of these things are variables, and I think that the most important thing is that question that we mentioned earlier of why are you doing it? Like, what are you trying to do? What is your goal? Are you trying to lift it up and drive it forward, and are you trying to hold it together because the circle's real big and that fiddle player is not listening to that fiddle player and you can hear that they're like a half beat off? By the way, if that does happen to you, you have no hope, but you can try anyway. Are you trying to provide a beautiful backdrop for somebody's wedding proposal? You gotta think of what you're trying to do musically, and then what technical stuff, what textural tricks, what chords, what approach is going to get you there. Does that make sense? So again, this is not a question that I can be like, okay, here are the 3 steps. You do this and this and this and this and this. It's a very the kind of heady, overthinking kind of question that I love. But hopefully that gives you some ideas anyway. And of course, listen, and listen to different players and different textures, and think to yourself, wow, what is that? What is happening there? I like that. Why do I like that? Oh, I see. I like that because it's, providing this rhythmic counterpoint to what's going on in the melody, or I like that because it's really exciting, or I like that because it's a weird chord and I wasn't thinking of that chord there. Try to, if you find something you like, figure out if you can do it. Figure out how take it apart and see how it works. That is a really solid piece of advice for learning how to do not just this, but music in general, I suppose. Okay, anyway, that's enough of that for today. If you have any questions, just drop them down in the comments. I will do my best to answer. And thank you so much for watching. Take care.